Congressman Greg Steube of Florida is a member of the House Weaponization Subcommittee. They had this hearing with RFK Jr. this morning, and he had a great exchange. I want to play this for you.
There's a lot in this opinion, and I have limited time, but I think illustrating some of the actions that the Biden administration took to censor speech is very important. I'm going to read specifically from the opinion. Explicit threats are an obvious form of coercion, but not all coercion needs be explicit. I'm on page 97 of the opinion. The following illustrative specific actions by defendants are examples of coercion exercised by the White House defendants. A, cannot stress the degree to which this needs to be resolved immediately. Please remove this count immediately. Sounds like a directive from the White House to me to social media companies. Accuse Facebook of causing political violence by failing to censor false COVID-19 claims. F, this is exactly why I want to know what reduction actually looks like. If reduction means pumping our most vaccine hesitant audience with Tucker Carlson saying it does not work, then I'm not sure it's reduction, implying that they're reducing the information on that. Questioning how the Tucker Carlson video had been demoted since there were 40,000 shares. Wanting to know why Alex Berenson had not been kicked off Twitter because Berenson was the epicenter of disinformation and radiated outward to the persuadable public. And I'm just skipping through here. I'm not even going through all these. Flatteringly stated, not to sound like a broken record, but how much content is being demoted and how effective are you at mitigating reach and how quickly? Flattery told Facebook, are you guys effing serious? I want an answer on what happened here and I want it today. Sounds like a pretty explicit threat to me. Again, quoting the opinion, these actions are just a few examples of the unrelenting pressure the defendants exerted against social media companies. This court finds the above examples demonstrate that plaintiffs can likely prove the White House defendants engaged in coercion to induce social media companies to suppress free speech.
You know, that is him reading examples of the Biden administration and their coercion. And that's directly from the Missouri versus Biden case. Eric Schmidt, now senator from Missouri, was the AG at the time. Anyway, we welcome Congressman Steube of Florida. Sir, welcome to the program. Welcome back. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, Sean, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, let's talk about your take, number one, on the hearings, the posturing of your Democratic colleagues on the committee, and your thoughts.
Well, what's interesting is the Democrats, because they can't, and mind you, no one in the Biden administration, the Biden family, or any Democrat is disputing that any of this information is wrong or false. So when they can't win on the facts, they just start attacking you as racist, misogynistic, homophobic, whatever. And so they're going after one of their own, RFK Jr., as a Democrat who's running for president against Joe Biden. And they're attacking him for being racist because he was trying to show through some of his tweets or quotes or whatever that the COVID vaccine and COVID affected different races differently. So, of course, they're
which, by the way, is very controversial on his part. But go ahead.
Yeah. So their approach is not the fact. Is not agreeing with the fact that yes, the Biden administration absolutely is working with big tech companies to censor speech. They just attack him personally.
All right, let me play for you Robert F. Kennedy addressing this letter signed by Democrats trying to disinvite him from the hearing. And I think it was his words, an attempt to censor a censorship hearing, which was pretty funny.
Hearing was convened to address. This is an attempt to censor a censorship hearing. The charges in this, and by the way, censorship is antithetical to our party. It was appalling to my father, to my uncle, to FDR, to Harry Truman, to Thomas Jefferson, as the chairman referred to. It is the basis for democracy. It sets us apart from all of the previous forms of government. We need to be able to talk, and the First Amendment was not written for easy speech. It was written for the speech that nobody likes you for.
What I mean, it's really true what he said by them sending that letter. You know, pretty much disinviting him, but, you know, to his credit, he showed up anyway.
Yeah, and they were trying to, in the very beginning, basically close down the hearing and find him in contempt of Congress for the comments that he had made. And he's absolutely accurate. They are trying to censor him in a censorship hearing before the Weaponization Committee. It's amazing the depth that this administration will go to silence people. We've seen it from the FBI, the DOJ, and at the highest levels in the White House. Some of those things I quoted came from the highest levels of the White House. And one of the statements that's in the Missouri v. Biden hearing, or the opinion, is that this is coming from the highest level of the White House telling these social media companies to take people down.
Well, that is something that has to stop. Now, we also have, Section 230 protections for content companies. For example, any media company like Fox News or ABC or NBC or CBS or CNN or the New York Times, fake news CNN or the Washington Post or MSDNC, they have liability issues. Yet these big tech companies that are not supposed to be content providers, but yet they're making content decisions. And they have liability protection that no other news organization has. Should that be taken away?
Yeah, I actually have a bill that addresses Section 230 and does significant reforms. And if you are market dominant in the marketplace and you violate people's First Amendment rights, you would lose your liability protection. And people like RFK Jr., the New York Post on the Hunter Biden laptop story could then sue those platforms. Well, what's interesting is in some of this back and forth that's now in this opinion was Jen Psaki and some of the people at the White House were veiled threats to these social media companies that they were going to take away their Section 230 liability protection if they didn't fall in line and do exactly what the White House wanted them to do.
Let me ask you this question. At the end of the day, what should these big tech companies do? For example, I find racism repugnant. But if you go online, and I don't even have access to any of my social media accounts anymore. To be honest, Congressman, I spent way too much of my spare time on it, became another job, and I realized that it's better off if my staff handles it. And if I really want to send out a tweet or something important, I just send it to them. They have access to it. They'll send it out for me after they probably argue with me that why are you starting another fight with Alec Baldwin or Jimmy Kimmel? But in fairness, if you're going to have a platform of speech, does that mean you have to accept that a lot of that speech is going to be repugnant, repulsive, offensive, and it's up to people to decide? For example, I can't make people listen 3 hours a day to my radio show. I'm trying. If I could, and I could tie everyone down in a chair and force them to listen for 3 hours a day, it's certainly something to think about, and I'm kidding. Or force them to watch my TV show and set their DVR and watch it every night at 9 Eastern. I'd like that to happen, but I have to do a good show for that to happen because anybody can choose to watch or not watch, right? So don't we all have the choice what to read, not read, and watch and not watch, and listen to or not listen to?
Yeah, and the government shouldn't be in the business. And in this example, the highest level of the government should not be in the business of censoring speech that they don't agree with. And they may not agree with things that RFK Jr. has said, but that doesn't mean that Twitter and other Facebook and all these other social media companies should take it down. In my opinion, as long as it's not criminal, if the speech is not criminal, sexually explicit, pornographic, threatening in nature, then Americans, whether you agree with them or not, have the freedom under the First Amendment of our Constitution to be able to say what they feel and have their opinion.
Yeah, well, and what do you think about some of the controversial things? I won't get into the list now. Next Tuesday, I've got a full hour with Robert Kennedy Jr. I have a lot of questions for him, but unlike a lot of other people that are interviewing presidential candidates, I don't view it as my role as the host to go in there and debate him. I might have agreements with him. I will never, ever listen to any government official in my life again on any health issue because they got so much wrong about COVID and about vaccinations. I think, for everybody to have told us that if you got the shot, you're never going to get COVID, you'll never transmit COVID, and them knowing that mutations were likely outcome and evolution of a virus and not telling us that possibility and the truth about it, to me, is just, it's beyond criminal to me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Very few people in my district are going to believe what the CDC and the FDA now say and what the things that Fauci said, especially when the Biden administration started pushing narratives that if you got the shot, you're not going to get sick. And obviously the facts bear out that that wasn't the case. And when Americans didn't agree with that or had other opinions on whether it was effective or not, the Biden administration was using Twitter and Facebook and other social media platforms to completely shut them down. And that's what's really, really scary, that we're in a place in our country where the government is okay at the highest levels telling people how to censor individual speech. I mean, the opinion in the Missouri v. Biden case is great. He talks about if all of these allegations are true, this is the largest censoring of American speech in the history of our country. And we need to protect that at all costs.
All right, quick break. Right back. More with Congressman Stubbe of Florida. Is on the House Weaponization Subcommittee. That's the committee that held hearings with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. today. We'll get to more of his observations of this. Your calls coming up. We have so much more to get to in the course of the program, all coming up straight ahead as we continue. And I've searched the record, and we have not found an instance specifically where he said, don't get vaccinations. However, he himself has been very outspoken against them, which, by the way, to me falls under the realm of freedom of speech and opinion, and he's allowed to have that.
Yeah, he's absolutely allowed to have that. He's allowed to express his opinion on that. He's allowed to show evidence of those opinions. It's not criminal conduct. And then you have an administration who, oh, by the way, 3 days of them coming into their administration were suddenly trying to silence one of their now primary opponents. Just like the kind of stuff that they're doing to go after President Trump, they're trying to go after RFK Jr. because he's a primary opponent. And they did that 3 days into their administration to start trying to censor him.
Unbelievable. Anyway, really interesting hearing today. We appreciate you being with us, Congressman Stubbe, great state of Florida. We love having you on, sir. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.